Hello and welcome back to OneClimate.net. This is the OneClimate channel being brought to you by OneClimate and Tick Tick Tick. We're hoping now, if the technical gods are smiling upon us, to connect with Kelly Blynn, who's in Cochabamba with 350.org. Kelly, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Excellent. I wonder if you could get started by telling us, giving us a little bit of the flavour of the conference. Obviously, we were hoping to be out there with you, and Mother Earth had other ideas. So thank you ever so much for joining us. And could you tell us a little bit about what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot going on all at once. It's sort of hard to summarize. It feels quite busy and hectic in some ways, but it's exciting. Now, I was in Copenhagen a few months ago, and it has a decidedly different. There's nothing corporate here. Everybody who's selling food are local women who are, camped out on the side of the road cooking traditional food. People are here from all around the continent, many of them in indigenous dress. It really is truly a people's conference. And every effort has been made to make sure that the process is very open. I'm sitting in on a lot of the working group discussions, and it's been very interesting to see the manner in which it's done, and the fact that the text that we're working on in these working groups with all of civil society is what governments are going to be signing in perhaps just a few hours or tomorrow. So it's quite a different feel and process in Copenhagen, that's for sure.
And well, we've got a lovely picture of you on the screen with a 350 poster. You're over there with 350. Can you tell us a little bit about what 350 campaign is doing in Cochabamba?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have a couple of different things going on. A lot of the work that we're doing is sort of connecting with our networks who are here present, and seeing what we can do to build up the movement more in Bolivia and in Latin America. And so we've had a couple of meetings so far with folks who have participated in 350 Bolivia on October 24th last year, and in different ways, and seeing how we can link them up better. And there was a lot of enthusiasm. We had a meeting of about 60 or 70 people yesterday, a lot of young people from around Bolivia who are really eager to start planning work parties for the day of action that we're organizing this year on the 10th of October. So we had a big brainstorm, and they're figuring out how they're going to structure their network. So we're seeing it as a big movement-building opportunity. And then on Friday and Saturday, we've helped to bring together the leaders of youth networks from around Latin America, and we're going to be hosting a meeting here in Cochabamba for actually 2 whole days. We're hoping to come out with some proposals and common goals for 2010 leading up to COP16. We're hoping that this can be a big year for movement building of youth networks here in Latin America, and we're hoping as 350 that we can help sort of play a role in supporting that.
It's interesting to hear you say the focus on movement building, and how are you hoping that that this conference will feed into the UN process, which many of us are kind of more accustomed with?
Well, the last that I heard is that the CC has left the submission period open until April 26th, and so I think the idea is that the declaration, the proposals coming out of this conference, they will submit officially to the UN, along with however many governments they get to sign on to that. I'm really not sure how many they will get to sign on or what the proposal will say exactly, but I think the idea is to have it serve as sort of a counterbalance to the Copenhagen Accord, something that's coming from civil society and governments who really want to do something that's in line with the science, and not what's politically expedient. So I think there is the idea of bringing this into the official negotiations.
And some of the texts and images that we've seen coming out of the conference, they're saying that this is got an incredibly different feel to Copenhagen, and it's really being led by indigenous people, and it really feels a lot more authentic. Is that something that you would support?
Oh yeah, definitely. And you just see it walking around, and you see it in the way that the sessions are conducted. Everything is about being very equitable and representative, and making sure that major networks are represented, that different genders, different cultures, different traditions are being represented, that all voices are in the room, and that was definitely not the case in Copenhagen. So I would definitely agree with that.
That's reassuring to hear. I'm going to ask you a quick question that we've been asking a lot of the people we've been speaking to today and yesterday, and we've been lucky to have people on from Bolivia, India, around the UK, and further afield. What do you think? What do you think people can do now? What are the steps that after this conference? You say you're hoping to build a movement, but what are the actual things that people can do around the world to take this forward?
Well, I think there's still somewhat to be seen of what actually comes out of the meeting, what the proposals are. But I think some of the first steps are, especially in countries where governments are willing to take action on this problem and are some of the most vulnerable. I think this conference represents building a real alliance between civil society and those types of governments who are proactive. And so I think that it's important for civil society in those countries to take the document, to take the proposals coming out of Cochabamba, and figure out how to work with their governments to become stronger. I think that here what I see is that we're able to find sort of who civil society's champions are on climate change at the government level. And I think that, there will be a role to continue to be played as we go home. Of course, there's going to be a lot of education work, a lot of planning to figure out how the sort of more general proposals coming out of this meeting can be adapted locally. Of course, a big challenge to come up with action proposals that can work in every part of the world. We've definitely learned that with 350, that it's important to somehow keep it open enough that any type of group or network can really participate in their own way. But it's also specific enough that it carries some weight and has a specific demand attached to it. So I think that will be the challenge, and I think it'll be up to the civil society movement to really take a look at the proposals and think deeply about how they can connect to the movement coming out of this conference and adapt it to their local community.
And just finally, we've been a press conference with Evo Morales, where he's saying that he's very keen for there to be a second summit, a people's summit, possibly in Europe. By the sounds of it, you've had quite a positive experience there so far. Is that something that you think would be beneficial for the movement?
Sorry, could you repeat the last part of the question? You cut out for a second.
Yeah, sorry. We were just watching a press conference with Evo Morales, and he said that he wanted there to be a second people's summit, possibly in Europe. Do you think that would help build the movement?
I think, to me, it's hard to say at this point. I think that we have to see what kind of momentum this summit generates. I think that it's been excellent so far. I think it was so needed after Copenhagen when Bolivia called this summit together to have something really positive and forward-thinking coming out of a really sort of depressing outcome in Copenhagen. But I don't know that we're ready yet to say that, we all need to fly to another place to meet again. I think we have to see how concrete and how effective this was before we commit to that. I definitely think it could be a great idea, but I think time will tell.
Okay, well, Kelly, we'll leave it there. Thank you ever so much for joining us. It's a bit of an experimental process, and it seems to have worked really nicely. So it's great to be able to connect with you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the summit. And hopefully, we'll be able to connect with you again, maybe in Bonn or maybe at the next People's Summit.
Absolutely. Well, wish you guys could be here with us.
Okay, thank you very much, Kelly.
Take care.